All those moments will be lost in time. Like tears in rain.
In the far-flung future of 2019 exists a world of flying cars, dystopian cities, and huge corporations like Atari. There are replicants, synthetic humans with a limited lifespan, used to do the dirty work for regular humans. Some of these replicants malfunction, wanting freedom and more lifespan, necessitating Blade Runners to hunt them down and retire them. Of course, is wanting freedom and a long life a malfunction? Are we creating machines or life forms? How are we treating these new life forms, and what does that say about us? What is the nature of life? Blade Runner attempts to ask all these questions, and at the same time create a cyberpunk visual atmosphere that hadn't been seen on the screen before. Rick Deckard is a hard-boiled, jaded Blade Runner who's been pulled back into service because 4 replicants have escaped back to Earth and are to be destroyed. Retired, I mean. Deckard meets with Eldon Tyrell, the CEO of the corporation who creates the replicants, and introduces him to Rachel, a replicant so lifelike it takes Deckard quite a while to realize that she is indeed a replicant. She doesn't know, and Tyrell has created her to be more human than human. Rachel, in the meantime, begins to piece together her nature and begs Deckard for help, which he is more amenable to since she saves his life from the replicants he's hunting down. Deckard continues his search for Roy Batty, the replicant leader, to stop him from hurting any more people. But is Roy really the villain of the story? And is Deckard more than he appears to be? Look, what is there to say about Blade Runner that hasn't already been said? A financial failure in 1982, Blade Runner was a far cry from much of what people expected from Harrison Ford at that time. The man who was Indiana Jones and in science fiction, Han Solo. This dour, murky, morally questionable character in a very bleak movie was not what audiences were looking for in the year of E.T. But the movie has definitely found an audience over the years and has since become an all-time classic, considered one of the best science fiction movies ever made. But which one, you might ask? There have been no fewer than 5 different versions of Blade Runner, from a work print version not received very well, to a sneak peek in San Diego, to an international cut, a US broadcast version featuring some toned-down violence, and a director's cut. But I think that the 2 cuts that are most controversial are the US theatrical release and the final cut, as these are probably the 2 most well-known. So rather than go over well-tread ground like behind the scenes and history of the making of the film, which has been done far better in other places than I could do in this time frame, let's look at some of the major differences between these 2 cuts and why the director's cut may be strongest in some areas. It fundamentally wrecks the themes of the film. Like George Lucas, Ridley Scott doesn't seem to understand his own work. Even the term Blade Runner to describe what Deckard does is nonsensical. In universe, it was probably spun out of a corporate board meeting. For the movie, Ridley Scott chose the name because it sounded cool, pulled from a novel about doctors smuggling medical equipment like scalpels, hence the term Blade Runner. The original cut has a terrible voiceover to give the film a noir feel, a tacked-on happy ending, and loses several scenes that are reinserted in the final cut. But the final cut does one major thing completely wrong that destroys the themes of the movie. It implies Deckard is a replicant. Let's take a look. The world is a mess. This city is a hellhole, a beehive full of activity where people seem to be just drones, consuming for larger corporations who plaster the buildings with their products. We've merged into some sort of Asian American sludge culture. Sure, we have some interesting technology, but it's clearly polluted the Earth so bad that the sun never shows itself. Except to the very rich, it would seem. Deckard is simply a warrior ant. He may be retired, but he's pulled back in because the hive demands it. The replicants are possibly a new form of life, one that may threaten the very existence of the old life that created it. More human than human, says Tyrell. A man who is for profit? Supplanting human existence with a better one? Or just something to make our lives better without understanding the consequences of what he's creating? The viewer can decide. But these lives he's created without a lifespan to fully explore the nature of existence is just torture to these replicants, who are well aware they are slaves. Deckard is also a slave, says he's given no choice about hunting these replicants down. If you're not one of the police, you're one of the little people, he's told, implying the little people have very little rights or freedom. So perhaps replicants aren't the only slaves in this world, they are just the only ones aware of it.
No choice, huh?
No choice, pal.
Batty and his group of replicants are not going into that good night without a fight. They lose, one by one, to the unwilling warrior ant. But finally, it comes down to Deckard and Batty, and they seem evenly matched. They even have similar injuries, as Roy's failing body starts in his hand, while Deckard's hand is lame thanks to Roy breaking his fingers. But when Roy can watch Deckard die, finally supplanting the uncaring humans who birthed him and taking his revenge, he stops. He saves Deckard. He shows grace and mercy. Why does he do this? Because he finds value in human life? No. But he does find value in life in general, and that life is more than just existing. It's living. It's passing on the experiences of your life, not just being part of the hive. He imparts this knowledge to a shocked Deckard, giving us the famous Tears in the Rain speech. It shows that these moments of life are fleeting, are important. They are what make life life. To disregard the replicants as life is to disregard life as life. Humans, animals, everything. And indeed, all the animals in this world are replicated. Animal life has been mostly snuffed out. Humans are now drones to a corporate machine, directing them to consume as they are blasted with advertising everywhere. There is no more reverence for life. But the replicants do have a reverence for life, and they are trying to squeeze every moment out of it, even as slaves. What they've done, the things they've witnessed, are gone forever, and because of a human's disdain for them. So, who are the soulless robots, and who are actually alive? This reverence for life is what Batty gives to Deckard, a human. So where Ridley Scott goes completely off the rails is to confirm that Deckard himself is a replicant, and this throws the entire theme of the movie into the dumpster. One replicant fighting another? The meaning of life passed on to just another robot? It makes no sense. It's ridiculous. Batty found grace as a robot that Deckard no longer possesses a human, and that's what makes the tears scene so powerful. The Lexington Theological Seminary painted Batty as a Christ figure. While I'm not sure I would go that far, it is an interesting take. Others have noted that this Batty, this machine, this piece of technology, finally transcends that to become human, but I disagree. I think in the framework of this film, humans have lost what it means to live and to revere life. Batty is better than humans, depressingly so. More human than human was said as a slogan, but in truth, Batty is more human than human in morality, if not in lifespan. We have souls because we feel, we react, we place importance on our experiences, and we lash out to those who don't respect our significance to the fabric of existence. To put it simply, I think, therefore I am. Blade Runner has earned its place in the pantheon of cinema greatness, and while its sequel is a good movie in its own right, it certainly doesn't have anything as profound or thought-provoking as the original movie's Tears in the Rain moment. If you haven't seen it in a while, give it another look, and see if you, like me, disagree with Scott's assessment on Deckard.
It's
Too bad she won't live. But then again, who does?